So, hello. It is such a pleasure to be here and to be able to speak to everybody, both virtually as well as those in this beautiful sanctuary, in this beautiful room. So, these are turbulent times. I don't know anybody who doesn't feel the turbulence. You spoke of this actually in the pebble, right? When a pebble is tossed into whether it's a moving body of water or still body of water, it does not matter how big the stone. It can be small, it can be a boulder, but it is going to cause a ripple. And those ripples can be big and they can be small, right? I'm a paddleboarder. And so even when I first got onto my paddleboard the first time, even little ripples had the chance of knocking me down, right? Now I can go over, boats can pass by sometimes too quickly on the local lakes, and I turn into them and I actually ride them, right? Sometimes I go like this. But what I do is I widen my stance, right? I bend my knees and I lean forward just a little bit. And by doing that, I can weather the storm. I can weather the turbulence. It doesn't matter. And I also have the quick reflexes that if I really need to, I can either drop to my knees or I can just pop into the water because I know how to swim, right? And I can get back up onto the boat and I can use a little bit of my strength and I can get myself back on to safe and solid ground, right? Turbulence is everywhere. It's in the wind, it's in the water, it's in our social relationships. It's in the relationships with our mothers, our fathers, our communities. It's everywhere. If you're going to be in relationship to the world, then you are going to experience turbulence, right? It's not about the turbulence or the storm. The storm is going to happen. As I was preparing for this, I was thinking about turbulence and things, the desire to control. And the one thing, regardless of human desire, that we literally cannot control is the Great Mother, right? The earth and the winds and the waters, we don't get to decide what happens there. But just like in the song that we sang or listened to, right? We are part of it. We are present in the now, whether it's the weather or whether it's a turbulent social relationship or wherever the turbulence is coming from, right? We have the opportunity to say, I'm going to widen my stance. I'm going to soften my knees. I'm going to lean forward just a little bit. And I'm going to allow myself to get grounded and to center. And so with that, what I offer and where we begin is with a centering. And I'd like to ask you to join me in song. It's very easy. Those who are here have access to, wait a second. Yes. Have access to the word. Sorry. Turbulence, mental turbulence. And so is on, right? So this is a very sweet song. Oh, no, it actually is a song. I Release Control. We're going to do that, the one that you have later. Okay, back on track. And this is a 7-minute centering practice. So I invite you to sing. The words are very easy. There is harmony possible. And where you choose to land is where you choose to land. And the vibration of this song is intended to literally vibrate through your body. So you can have that vibration just through your hearing and listening, but if you open up your voice, and those of you who are on Zoom, you're all silenced The only person who will hear you is you. And so I hope you take this opportunity to actually vibrate within your space and your presence, because in the presence of turbulence, we have breath and we have voice. And those two things together are always your right, regardless of what's whipping around. So let's begin the song. And yeah.
So, do you want to sing? Because if you can just mute.
Mute button.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well,
And you have to mute.
I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love
So this is the call in times of turbulence, drawing down that energy. I didn't begin here. I began in my life as a very cooperative and wild being. I've kept a lot of the wild, but I can still cooperate. I can still work with others. The first 7 years of being born into a very traditional family was this sense of deep safety, because nothing ever moved in my house unless it came in as a new piece of furniture and got placed. And it stayed there for 40, 45 years. Right. And so I danced and I moved and I swirled and I flipped from trees and I explored my world and I dove into pools when I didn't know how to swim. And my parents were like, what? And so they gave me lessons. They didn't fight the turbulence that lived inside of me. They didn't fight the wild. They did occasionally during every Sunday when we would go to the Episcopal church that we belonged to and that I grew up through, and into being an acolyte and going to an all-girls Episcopal school and going to an Episcopal high school or college, right? I really lived that spiritual life with my family. And in those moments, they asked me to hold back the wild. But in my life, they didn't ask me to hold back that wild. They didn't ask me to stop dancing. They didn't ask me to stop doing cartwheels down long, beautiful hallways that just invited me to do gymnastics. What am I gonna say, right? It was okay that I cartwheeled in and actually knocked the governor of Virginia back into his room at the resort that we were staying at. They apologized. They said, she likes to move. And he was very gracious. And I believe we actually danced at dinner. I was a tenacious mover, and my parents didn't shame me for that. They trained me. They gave me horseback riding lessons when I jumped on horses in fields. They were like, oh my gosh, please stop doing that. So let's teach you how to do it. When I flipped out of trees, they said, I think gymnastics is in order right now, right? And when I got too rambunctious in ballet class, they said, let's do diving, right? Let's go somewhere else. And so the turbulence was very little there, except for that which I made in that relationship. But in the other relationship in my life with my brother, the turbulence was there only 1%, right? But it was a big enough rock that when he would throw it and it would leave bruises on my body, I felt that this solar space in this place of deep presence in my body, thinking to myself, how could somebody that I love so much, that I literally revere, I would do anything to do, right? How can you hurt me? That was his story. That was his shadow. And his shadow turned into a stone that would pierce the surface of my life. And so there was turbulence, right? And it was turbulence that, as the youngest kid on my street, I wasn't going to tell anybody, because I might get kicked out. I might not be invited to hang out with the kids. I might be told that I was a tattler. And as the youngest one on the street, oh, there was no way I was getting left out. So I took my lumps and my bumps. They didn't happen that often, right? That's turbulence. I didn't even think about it as a kid. I just thought, this is what is, right? These are the prices paid. Turbulence can live in a lot of different ways. And I knew that my brother loved me. And I loved him back. I love him back now. I love my brother. Because in my family, the turbulence did come later. In my adolescence, I created my own turbulence. I couldn't figure out how to separate from this sweet holding space. And so I rejected it. And I rejected my body. And I basically went into a starvation mode for about 10 years. And nobody knew. It was my own little secret. I became the keeper of great secrets. I became the keeper of great secrets for others too. I was the one that people would seek out if something was happening. I was the one in college that would get 3 o'clock telephone calls. Oh, my girlfriend broke up with me and come find me. And I'm like, I think you should come find me because I'm in bed. And, but come on over, right? Of course. Let's go into the steam room that was the heating system beneath where we lived, and we would sweat it out together, right? I would get them to tell me their stories. I'm the keeper of great secrets. But eventually, the keeping of great secrets started hurting too much. My inner turbulence became too much. In fact, it burned a hole through my stomach. I mean, it really hurt every day, right? This was before all of the options that we have now to address things like that. Turbulence can come from outside of us, but it can also come from our own doing. What turbulence do you create in your life? If you think back, what turbulence have you created in the past? The turbulence is not just out there. It's also within us. The beauty, and what I realized during actually a Lenten practice, my true healing began at 19, 20. My true healing began at 20, when during Lent, I gave up busting on myself. I was very good at apologizing for my existence. I was very good at disappearing in the presence of others, right? I let everybody else have the space, except when I was dancing and performing. And then this, right? And so I stopped busting on myself because it was hurting me, because I literally had, my body was creating its own disease. And I thought to myself, am I really going to live like this? Am I always going to be dependent on doctors and medicine? And can I hold this great secret for so long, for my entire life? And so I stopped busting on myself. And for 40 days, I took a practice. And it started very turbulently, because I would bust on myself, and then I would bust on myself for busting on myself. And I would get down on myself and, oh, how stupid, and right, all of that shadow, all of that darkness, all of that turbulence. I was imploding. And then one day, I began to stop. And it didn't stop immediately, right? Just as healing doesn't happen like this, not typically, right? But what I did is I became aware of the frequency of the turbulence. I became aware of the pain that I was causing myself. And I counted it. I really liked counting. That's how you do eating disorders, is you count. Lots of counting, right? And And then I would just try to do it a little bit less. And when I was successful, wow, that felt really good. And so I would try to do it just a little bit less, and a little bit less, and a little bit less, until eventually I stopped apologizing for my existence. And I started feeling my feet on the ground. I started feeling the softening of my knees. I started feeling the sense of weight again, that weight was okay. Embodiment was okay. Not having a ballerina's body was okay. And that opened up doorways into modern dance, into all of these performance art spaces. And suddenly my life began to bloom slowly, right? My relationships began to bloom. I moved away from that traditional life and way of being, and I stepped over into a spiritual way and a new way of being. And one little element at a time. But I didn't leave everything behind. I still brought what worked with me. And then I began layering on what felt true to my soul, to my body, to my heart. And what felt true and kind and loving to my whole being, spiritual, physical, relational. I started actually really liking myself. And then eventually, I did the same thing that my dad did at the end of his life. I started falling in love with myself. As my dad was dying, when I was 24, he had lymphatic cancer that entered his brain, and the beautiful, smartest human being I had ever known in my entire life was no longer really there. His body was, and his sweetness was, and those gentle hands. But all of the intelligence, the access was gone. And he actually forgot who I was too. And I was his caretaker. I would pick him up and I would swivel him and I would walk him to the bathroom and I'd seat him down or put him in the shower and cover him with a cloth and say, I'll be back, Dad. You attend, right? And one of those times I was picking him up and pivoting him and I placed him down and he sat sort of slumped and limp. And he said, I'm falling in love with you. And I said to him, oh, Dad, I fell in love with you a long time ago. Right? To fall in love, to be in the presence of deep love, regardless of what has happened in the past. You cannot change that. Whatever ill you have done, whatever ill anybody else has ever done to you, and whatever you imagine has been in the thoughts or actions of others. You can't do anything about it. What we can do, though, is we can arrive here now. And we can begin to fall in love with this. And that, I believe, is the call to action. When there is turbulence, you widen your stance. You soften your knees. You lean forward just a little bit. And you become buoyant, right? You ride. And suddenly, it's actually sort of fun. See? Yeah. This This, I think, is what we are being called to. And we can choose it in any moment and at any time. Yeah. And we can choose then, once it's there, we can choose to then share it. And at the point of sharing, it becomes kindness. Right?